You're listening to the CareersBU podcast, a podcast aimed at Bournemouth University students and graduates. Each episode, we talk to employers, alumni and professionals all about their career journey, what employers are looking for, and help you explore the opportunities that are available to you. Hello and welcome to this episode. I'm Amanda Fripp, Careers Consultant at Bournemouth University. In this episode, I chat to Rachel Clarke. Rachel is a full-time staff member at BU, as well as a small business owner, making and selling candles, wax melts and fragrances. In this episode, we chat about how Rachel set up a business, the many different hats she has to wear, and she provides advice to anyone considering setting up a small business or side hustle. Hi Rachel, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Can you just introduce a little bit about yourself, so what your role is and your business, please?
Absolutely. So my name is Rachel Clarke. I am the Business Engagement and Knowledge Exchange Manager here in the Business School at Bournemouth University. But I kind of straddle the Business School and our central external engagement team as well. So I spend a lot of time working with businesses on various different projects, all kinds of stuff to bring them into the university to work with academics and or students. But in addition to that, I also have my own side hustle. I have a small business called Sense of Adventures, which is a home fragrance business.
Excellent. So how long have you had the small business for?
So SOA started in July 2020. So we are coming up to 5 years now.
What made you start the business? Where did you get the idea from?
Well, I don't even know how long I've wanted to have my own business, and I just could never really think about what my sort of speciality is. I didn't know what I could make. I didn't know what I could sell. I didn't know if I had some kind of like something that I could do for a service. I kind of always saw myself as just an average person. So I didn't know what that kind of thing was that I could then go into a business. But I spent years thinking about it and thinking about myself and, you know, what I could offer. And then just kind of by chance, I was given a candle making kit for my birthday one year. And I started making candles and I was like, oh, this is fun. I enjoy this. And there's so much that you could do with candles and home fragrance stuff. So I did some research about it as well, and to find out more about what the sort of home fragrance market was like, both in the UK and globally, and what that could look like in the future, and like where my own interests were, and learning about how to make different items. And then one day my boyfriend said about a business name, and he said, oh, Sense of Adventures. And I was like, oh, the stars are aligned. Here I go. Like, I have to do this because that's just a great name.
Yeah.
I did do some research on the name, and there was a business that was kind of similar, Sense of Adventure in the US. And I thought, ooh. So we got Sense of Adventures in the UK, got the domain name, and thought, yep, that's it.
Cool. Okay. So there's always been like an interest in starting a business, but it took a while to kind of come to the idea of candle making sense.
Yes, that's right.
So you've already touched on kind of what you had to, some of the things you kind of researched and thought about, but what else did you have to think about before starting this business?
Oh my gosh, so much. Not to be off-putting though, because it was really interesting and I really enjoyed it. But there was kind of the business side and then the kind of product details as well. So for the sort of business stuff of getting that off the ground, I had to consider different ways to finance it and where to get some money from to start that up. I had to look at different materials to see what it was that I needed, not just for the product, but for packaging as well. Any props that I needed for photography, that sort of thing. Had to look into marketing because although I have an interest, I don't have that experience. So I had to learn a lot about marketing, which I mainly found from social media, to be honest. But that was particularly insightful and was something that I really valued, actually. But yeah, I had to consider what marketing to do, any kind of compliance as well, because dealing with fragrance, there were compliance issues around that. I had to learn about insurance as well, with the public liability insurance, and also mainly what that value proposition was, what it was that I was going to create that was different, that people would want to buy, and how to position that, all of that kind of stuff, which took a really long time. And I'm still learning some of this as well, but I really enjoyed it. But then on the other side of that as well, there was the product. So what was the product? What was it that I was trying to sell? So I already identified candles, and then I came across this thing which is very popular nowadays, but at the time I didn't know about it, which was wax melts. And I was like, oh, these are interesting. So I found I found out more about wax melts, what they were. I did a load of product testing as well. I also found out that reed diffusers would fit in with that brand as well. So I learned how to make those and what materials I needed for that. So it was a lot of learning of how to make things, and also how to put together this branding as well for SOA, all that testing that needed to be done as well, because different fragrances they've got different densities, different ingredients in them, and therefore when you are putting together a fragranced candle, for example, different fragrances will react differently in different waxes. So I also had to have a look at what wax I wanted to use and how it aligned to what I wanted to do for a business. There was loads of different considerations. But in terms of the differentiating part as well, when I was looking at my products, I went down a route of themes and having specific themes to then go with that adventure bit. But also I wanted to be as eco-friendly as possible. So when I first started, I thought, I'll use essential oils in candles and that would be great. But after product testing, I realized that wasn't actually something that was particularly feasible, and there were all kinds of different problems with that. It can be done, but it would require a lot more testing. So I started using fragrance oils, which aren't particularly eco-friendly, but all of the materials that I use now I make sure are as eco-friendly as possible. Like I use biodegradable glitter for my wax melts. The packaging that I use is sustainable packaging. I use bubble wrap, which is sustainable as well. So that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's quite a lot to think about in terms of the kind of stuff that aligns to your values as well, I guess.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But it was really enjoyable along the way, building that piece, and thinking about the different elements that make up to it, and also having the, as you say, actually about the values, about them underpinning everything that I do.
Cool. Okay. And were you at home doing this testing? Do you have your own? Was it in the kitchen, kind of testing all the different chemicals?
It was. So I started off I was renting a flat at the time, so I would make in the kitchen. I would melt the wax in the kitchen on the stove, and then I would go into the living room and make whatever it was that I was making, and go backwards and forwards. And I'd pack all my orders in the front room as well. But it was a massive front room. And then I went through a period of moving back to my parents' house whilst I was waiting to buy a house, and I was making in the spare bedroom, which was a tiny box room, and I had to have the window open to make sure it was well ventilated when I was making stuff. That was a bit of a nightmare. But then when I went into another flat that I bought, I then created a wax workshop in the loft. It was a loft conversion, and I had this massive space to work in, and it was fantastic. So I really appreciated that. Since then, I've moved again, and I have a wax workshop in my garage. And again, lots of space, which is very helpful, and it's well ventilated.
Yeah, I guess that's really important. You don't want to be suffering from any side effects of...
Yes, I do use a full ventilated face mask as well when I play around with oils, just because it's an industrial grade one.
Oh, wow. And where did you get all the ingredients, and how did you find out where to buy the different oils and ingredients for them?
Well, initially I just had this kit, which I think was from Hobbycraft, and it was great to use, but obviously just a couple of times. So then I had to do research as to where to actually find all this stuff. And mostly I joined a lot of relevant groups on Facebook as well. So that was kind of the main bit where I found out more about different suppliers. Various different suppliers have got their own Facebook groups, but then there are also different like candle making Facebook groups too, which talk about different suppliers and what kind of oils that they have and if they're good oils or whatnot. So I did that mainly to find out more about what was on the market from that supplier end and to find out about how reputable those suppliers were and if their values aligned to mine as well. So, I mean, no one that I've come across has got the kind of the child labour that they're like involved in that, but those were the kinds of things that I was looking for. So yeah, I did a lot of research, but mainly on Facebook and learning through that, which was actually invaluable. So now I've got about 6 or 7 different suppliers that I use, all for various different things. My melts and candles and reed diffusers are all, the fragrances are from all of those. Some of them supply some of my packaging as well, and like bottles that I have for reed diffusers and whatnot. But yeah, lots of lots of Facebook stalking, I suppose. But I also thought it would be a good idea to join some Facebook groups in America as well to see what they were doing over there in case there was anything that I could kind of bring over. But the main thing that I learned about that is one of my suppliers anyway does that, so I don't need to. But B, they have no food imitation regs over there. So all their candles look absolutely amazing because they can make them looking like incredible foodstuffs, which we can't do here as one of the sort of compliance things that we have. So yeah, all I took from America is that they have pretty candles.
I guess that's quite important though when you're doing your research to actually make sure you're researching for the right country, and not just assuming because another country is doing something, you can do it here as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got here in the UK, which they don't have in America or anywhere else in the same way. If you have fragrance in candles and wax melts and reed diffuse and whatnot, they need to have a CLP label on, which tells you about the ingredients, what's like how hazardous the ingredients are and what to do in an emergency if you get it on your skin or whatever. So each of my different products has to have a relevant one of those on, which is a requirement. Okay. But yeah, they don't have that in America as far as I can see.
Really important, particularly for things where it can affect skin, breathing, you can have accidents with it, to make sure that you're following that compliance for those instructions as well.
Yeah, it's actually made me really aware of products that are on the market that don't have that or that are mass produced just because you don't necessarily know what's in them. So yeah, it's made me more aware of that.
And in terms of were you always building this business alongside a full-time job? Because obviously you're in a full-time job now.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been really difficult in terms of time. So yeah, I've been building this since I went live I think I said July 2020, but I was working full time at that time, and I have been working full time since. But I'm also in that time became a first time mum to my little girl, who's now 2. So I was on maternity leave for a year. But in addition to all of that as well, working full time, being a mother, I'm also a PhD student. So I'm working on my doctorate at the moment. Again, 5 years in. Maybe I started those both things at the same time, the business and doctorate. And I also run a sports team too. So I'm a director of a local sports team.
How do you fit this all in?
Yeah, I just spend a lot of time flitting from one thing to the next, really. But at the same time, there's like transferable sort of knowledge and skills from each of those areas. So yeah, it's not like doing something complete. I mean, they might sound completely different, but there's bits in there that have got crossover that I'm learning from. But it's very much a juggling act.
Yeah. I mean, how do you find that with your business now? Now it's kind of established, does it kind of, I mean, it can't just run itself because obviously you still need to make the product. Yeah. You're always doing something for it. But how are you finding that now? Now the business is established whilst doing everything else?
Yeah, it's easier because I know what I'm doing in terms of the marketing piece, and I have repeat customers as well. So that's particularly helpful. But at the same time, I still have to make products, which isn't the most difficult bit. It's the thinking about new products, new scents, new themes that it could go into, that they could like tie together in a collection. And then just creating the marketing kind of assets to then use as promotional materials. So I went through a phase of using TikTok quite regularly, but I haven't used that for a while. But I mainly use other bits of social media, blogs, Instagram, and website.
Okay. So, and did you have to like just teach yourself those skills of using social media in a kind of marketing way?
Yes, I did.
Do you find you're still learning social media? Because social media is changing all the time. Yeah. So how easy is it for you to keep up with those kind of changes and developments as well?
Yeah, it's not easy, but being present on social media, I think, helps because, but also identifying channels which can then help me, or different profiles. So I follow some different like content creators on Instagram, for example, who what they do is they help small business owners. So their content is just focused towards teaching their audience about what's coming up next in the world of Instagram or the world of TikTok or wherever, and the kinds of things that you could or should be doing to create your audience and for your audience to trust you and eventually buy from you. So it's kind of being present and being there, but also following who I hope are the right people to share that information with me. I also get newsletters from sites like Later and eRank. So eRank is for Etsy, and I haven't actually used an Etsy store for a while, but it's something that I'm thinking about going back into. So I've been looking at that newsletter to find out more about the trends within Etsy.
Okay, cool. And do you attend any like face-to-face kind of craft fairs or anything like that? Or is it all online?
Yeah, I have done. I did some whilst I was on maternity leave, which was local ones within the Dorset area, and I think that was great to kind of establish myself more locally and to get my business name out there. And I just really enjoy them. I love the idea of, when I was a kid, I loved playing shops, and it was like that. I got to play shops, and I really enjoyed that. And I cannot wait until my daughter's old enough to play shops as well. I've got all the stuff for her. I'm just waiting for her to grow up a bit so that she can enjoy it too. But yeah, so I really enjoyed it, like dressing the table, making sure I had like interesting looking stock on it, and then talking to passers-by and hoping that they were interested.
And I guess being a scent, it's quite good being in person because they can smell it and they can try it.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah, that's right. I had some like wax melts on display on my tables it was on a like a slate board which I wrote in chalk "smell me" on it, so they could have a look at the different melts that were there and smell them. Generally, due to fire safety, I'm not allowed to have the burning wax melts on or burning candles. But I think I was at one a few years ago when I could use an electric melter. So I was able to, have that melting so that they could see what it looked like when it was melted. But it was just a pool of like swirly wax. But yeah.
And in terms of the finance side of your company, so did you fund your business yourself, or did you get any grants or anything?
No, I was looking around for grants, but I also at the time didn't really know what I was looking for. So I had some money saved up and I put £1,000 of my own money in to experiment, to research, just to kind of get it off the ground, try different materials, different waxes. And materials are expensive. But it was my own money that I put into it.
Okay, cool. And in terms of the finances now, do you, like when you first set up the business, did you register it straight away?
Yes.
Or did you registered it straight away, registered the name? And then in terms of...
I haven't like trademarked it or anything like that, but I've got it as like I've registered it.
Yeah, so you register it as a business, yeah. And then the finance, how do you find dealing with like, do you have to do self-assessment tax returns? Like how do you find that side of it other than the finance side of it?
Hate it. Absolutely hate it. But I do it. So I did my self-assessment tax return. I think it was the end of December like this cycle that's just finished. I was really pleased with myself that I wasn't doing it right at the end of January. But yeah, I found some like little tips, I suppose, and things to make it easier as I go along, which is may sound sort of daft, but keep accurate records, which I didn't necessarily do in the first year. So then I had to go back through emails and statements and whatnot, which I really didn't enjoy. But I then learned that so when people order things, I then go to the post office and post it, and then you get your sort of receipt. So I get that proof of postage and put it into a diary on the page where I posted it, so I can look back through that diary and see, when I posted what, in case there are any issues. But it also helps with my finances as well. So just little things like that to be organized, to ensure that that self-assessment isn't the nightmare that it could be each year.
Okay, so really looking at kind of what you're spending, what your income, expenditure, and keeping track of everything.
Yes,
is really important too.
Yeah, in this kind of organised fashion, rather than keeping it all in my head, which is something that I'm really good at. But yeah, I generally have different notebooks, of which I work from in terms of ideas, products, and then the finance. That's a diary really, but the finance bit. So yeah, I work across many, many notebooks and diaries, but they all have a purpose.
Okay, cool. And also websites. So you have a website. Is that something you developed yourself? Did you get somebody else to create your website?
No, I did it myself. So I started off on Etsy, and I still don't understand how the finance bit of Etsy works. So I got annoyed one day and was like, right, I'm doing my own website. So I shut my Etsy store down. I know that there are guides out there on what the finance, like, to break down. I just didn't understand it at the time. So I created a website via through Wix, which was really easy to do, and it worked fine. I got my domain name, as I said, like right at the beginning, and I used that for a few years. And for some reason, I decided that I wanted to make a really sort of fancy looking website, and I couldn't quite work out what I was doing on Wix as to get what I wanted. So I moved over to Shopify, which at the time was slightly cheaper as well. And I thought I'd like hit the jackpot of finding something that was cheaper and looked slicker. But so I created then a Shopify website, transferred my domain over to that, and just have kind of been learning from social media as to things that I can add on that Shopify website to make it more user-friendly and a better kind of experience for new and existing customers.
Okay, brilliant. So, but I mean, you must have learned an awful lot of skills and developed so many skills kind of developing your website, the different platforms that you're using.
Yeah, yes, I never really consider it like that, but it's all self-taught, or things that I've heard from different people on TikTok saying you should be doing this in your small business, and if it fits with what I'm wanting to achieve, then I'll give it a go. But yes, it's not something that I'd really done before at all. So yeah, it's been interesting. An interesting sort of journey. And with that, I've done some blogging as well on my website. There's a blog on there. I've tried to learn how to take better photos. My photos is something that I think always could be better. But yeah, that was a steep learning curve as well.
You have to wear many hats, don't you, when you're running a small business? So if you are doing like the photography and the social media and the product making and the finance.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. But yes, it's lots of different things. But I think it gives me like a really good experience of those different types of things, which is kind of what I want. So yeah, it's been great doing all of those things, definitely.
Brilliant. What about any kind of unexpected challenges that you faced? And is there any, I mean, you've kind of touched on some of the advice in terms of the finance, but any advice you'd give to students maybe to avoid common pitfalls in their development of a side hustle?
I don't know if this is a common pitfall, but when I was doing my A-levels, I did A-level in business studies, and I learnt that cash is king. But I mean, I learnt that from like a theory perspective, but I really learnt that from a practice perspective in SOA. I've got this tendency, which I know other people have got, which is where I see a new shiny thing and I buy it. So I made that mistake, and in like the first couple of years of SOA, where I just went on spending sprees and was like, oh, this is exciting. Oh, look at all this glitter that I've bought. Oh, look at all these exciting oils that I've bought. And then I ended up having money tied up in so much stock, and if I was going to go back and do that again, I wouldn't. I absolutely wouldn't. I'd plan in advance exactly what I needed and not buy such huge quantities of things that I use, but not to have all that money tied up in stock. That was a pitfall that I just, wouldn't repeat again, and have learned a lot from. Also, time is not necessarily a mistake, but it's a challenge, because creating social media content, I find, is really fun, but it's really time consuming. And you can absolutely, I've seen this on different platforms where they say one piece of content, you can use it sort of 15, 20 times, whatever. And that is a real time saver, because it's been really helpful to think of one idea and then transform it into different ways over different bits of, like, for example, on Instagram, it could be a post or a reel or several reels or 3 stories or a series, or, like an informed carousel, whatever. So it's still a big sort of resource investment, the social media side of things for me, and it needs to be planned. But that was a big sort of challenge to overcome, just trying to work smarter in that respect.
I think sometimes you kind of think, oh, social media, it's a great quick way of reaching people, but actually it's not quick.
No, not in my experience anyway.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people would reiterate that as well.
Yes, yeah.
So what's maybe a piece of advice you'd give to a student who are thinking about turning maybe their passion or a project into a small business or side hustle?
I would say to really consider what your plan is. As I said earlier, with the buying things, I'd plan that, and I then learned to plan it in advance so that I didn't sort of get myself in financial difficulty. But to think about your plan and then just jump straight in. The passion is perhaps the most important part of that side hustle, that business, whatever it is, because I'm sure people have come across this before, in that people buy from people, and people can sense that kind of authenticity that you have as well. So if you're passionate about a certain thing, whatever it is, use that passion to then shine through all of your communications, in how you create your product, service, market it, tell your story, all that kind of thing. That's I think that's a really key thing, really, in setting up your side hustle or your business. But then I also hear that taking breaks is important.
I said you hear, do you follow that advice?
No.
Maybe that's something you need to be working on there.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you sound like a very, very busy person. Everything you've talked about has been so interesting and so useful today, because I think there's a lot of students out there, or a lot of people out there, who do have an idea and they're just not entirely sure. They don't feel that have the confidence to take that forward. So no, thank you so much for sharing your journey and providing those tips and information to our students.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. Please remember to subscribe and follow so you can keep up to date with all new episodes.